All right, this next section we have quadrilaterals that we're going to go ahead and classify. We're going to figure out which quadrilateral they are going to be. On this section on the test, I think you got 4 of them, and then you're going to have 4 options, and you're just going to have to do a matching section, so just kind of narrowing it down. These we're going to pretend like we don't have any matching. We're just going to try and do it from scratch, so it might be a hair harder here on the review than on the actual test, but let's do this here. So you have a parallelogram with this first one here. It's AB is congruent to CD. That just means, your opposite sides are congruent. That's good. Apparently BC is congruent to AD. Okay, that's good. That's what a parallelogram is supposed to do right there. And then this right here says AC and then BD are going to be congruent. And here's how we probably need to draw some of these here. I usually like to draw something that kind of looks like maybe it could be a little bit of everything here. I'm going to make just a slight parallelogram. Here's how you're supposed to label them here. You're supposed to go A, B, C, D, kind of like that, in either a clockwise, or you could go the other way, a counterclockwise order. Don't go in a zigzag order. Don't go A, B, and then C, D like that right there, because that's not usually how we will label those there. So, of course, the sides here across from each other need to be congruent, kind of like what they're saying. But then also, they do say AC right here, that diagonal needs to be the same length as this diagonal right there. Those need to match up. The only way that can really happen is actually if it's a rectangle. That's one of our properties of a rectangle, saying that the diagonal AC is congruent to the diagonal BD. So this one here is going to be a rectangle. Okay. All right, now the next one here, a couple of typos. I need to go fix those. By the time you see this, I might have those already fixed for you. But we're going to say we're going to have quadrilateral ABCD. So I'm not necessarily saying it's a parallelogram. I'm not saying it's not a parallelogram, but not necessarily a parallelogram. Apparently we have AB is congruent to CD, but then also AB is not congruent to CD. Now the only way I can draw 2 sides that are parallel but not congruent is if they happen to be usually trapezoids. Okay, and that's a property of a trapezoid. One pair of parallel sides, and those sides cannot be congruent. So that's how I'll label this right here, A, B, C, D, kind of like that, in a clockwise order. But they do tell us AC, the diagonal, must be congruent to BD. And the only way that can happen is if it's not only just a trapezoid, but it's a specific trapezoid. This is called an isosceles trapezoid. So that should be your answer there if we label everything correctly there. So you have AB is congruent or parallel to CD. That still matches up. They are not congruent right here. So AB is not congruent to CD. And then AC, the diagonal, matches with the other diagonal BD. Okay. Next, moving along here, this one's pretty simple. They give us a parallelogram, but they say AB is congruent to CD, BC, and AD. All sides are apparently congruent right there. The only way that's going to happen is if it's a rhombus right here. Let me draw it out here for you. Right, this would be A, B, C, and D. And, whoops, I don't even need those there. We're just saying AB is congruent to BC. And then, wait, hang on here. Let me make sure. AB congruent to CD. Oh, yep, there it is. It's just my handwriting's a little sloppy there. And also congruent to BC, and then also congruent to AD. Yep, so definitely a rhombus there on that. That's the only way that can happen. You could make a case for a square, but since they didn't give us any additional information, we are not 100% if that is going to be a square. So a rhombus is kind of a more broad category right there. All right, look at this next one here, quadrilateral. AB is apparently congruent to BC, and then CD is congruent to AD. So it's kind of like these 2 sides that are next to each other, AB and BC. Those would be next to each other. So let's kind of draw that as best we can. Roughly the same length. And then apparently CD and AD are also the same length. So it's like you have those 2 sides here. So here's AB, and then BC, and then CD, and then AD. Okay, so basically they're saying the 2 consecutive sides, the 2 sides that are kind of next to each other, are congruent, and then the other pair of sides. So it's not opposite sides are congruent here. This will be a kite when you're done with this. All right. Two more here. So we got a parallelogram. You have ABCD parallel, and then AC is congruent to BD, which that's going to be the diagonal there because it's kind of skipping a letter right there. And then it's also perpendicular. The only case that that's going to really happen is if it's a square here. So you can go A, B, C, D, and then you can draw everything out here. Those are congruent and then also perpendicular. And then, so yep, that'll have to be a square.